welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Greg Archer and welcome to the Esalen interview. Here we connect with change agents, we swim deep waters, and we wander on the edge of it. So thank you for joining us today. Our guest is Jenée Johnson, a program innovation leader in mindfulness, trauma, and racial healing, as well as a certified professional coach and emotional intelligence educator. In March, Jenée spoke at the Wisdom 2.0 conference in San Francisco. Esalen was one of the community sponsors for that. Great conference. Jenée leads a powerful effort to bring mindfulness into public health practices and programs through the Trauma-Informed Systems of Care initiative in San Francisco. That is a great program, by the way. Her goal is to improve the organization's ability to manage change, stay resilient, inspire growth, and become a mindful culture. In addition to having been recognized by many of her peers as a powerful woman in the mindfulness movement, Jenée is also the founder of the Right Within Experience, an experiential mindfulness program that reclaims humanity, joy, and well-being for Black people through mindfulness practices. And we'll talk more about all of that in this Esalen interview. And please join me in welcoming Jenée Johnson. Jenée, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much. It's a joy to be.
It is a joy to be. Yes, it is a joy to be. So folks, leave some comments or questions if you have any specific questions, and I'll attend to them as best I can as we move through the next 40 to 45 minutes or so. But Jenée, it's really great to connect with you, and I'm really digging, I love the red curtains in the background.
Thank you.
I have a red corner here, so.
Saw that.
We're in pink today, this is good. Well, I am, I'm asking all folks that we connect with here, because this has been such a curious year, but how has this unique time in history been for you? We started out with a pandemic, then it became two pandemics, which now includes racial injustice. So I'm curious, how has this time been for you?
Well, it's been unsettling, certainly, just as it has been for most people. But I feel that because of my practices and my lifestyle, that I have been well resourced to meet the rising winds of chaos and the demands for us to reset. So I think that I have been so blessed to be able to shelter in place and to shelter in peace. I don't live alone. I have a husband and my son, a young adult son who had to move back home because he works in the food industry and the culinary arts. And as we know, that industry has taken a tremendous hit in the pandemic. And so having them close at hand has been very helpful in that I am able to still have human connection, which is really, really important. Another thing that I have done, a longtime colleague, friend of mine, we meet every week. We have a FaceTime every week, and we talk and we laugh and we share about what's happening in our lives. She has a very deep well of spiritual resources in another direction, but it's so wonderful. So I think that what my resourcefulness has asked me to do or prepared me to do is look at how do I take care of myself inside of this chaotic situation.
Wow, that's really beautiful. I sort of feel that if we have all the mindfulness practices, like many of us who are tuning in most likely have, I mean, if we're on the Esalen page and we know about Esalen and we've done a lot of self-inquiry, do you feel like a lot of that work over the years has prepared us for prepares us for times like this, right?
Well, it prepares us, I mean, it helps us to have built some kind of internal resilience so that you don't have to be totally swept away and hijacked by it. I mean, it's going to, I mean, we will go through the waves of human emotion. It is natural, But if your well of resilience is deep enough, you don't have to be swept away and taken out by it. So that, I think, is that's the difference. There are times, I mean, it took me a long time to really cry for George Floyd. But I did. I also recognized that that was important to do, that I was crying for him. I was crying for Eric Garner, who was murdered in Staten Island, New York, my hometown, you know, at a place where I stood and waited for the bus numerous times. So we can connect with the waves of grief and sadness and allow for them and make room for them. And then at the same time, be able to release in acceptance and figure out, what is life asking me to do? What is life calling me to do and to be? And that, my friend, is the question. That's the question.
What is life asking and calling me to be? It's a powerful question. And well, first of all, I could relate to a lot of what you just said. You know, I woke up this morning and I was like, oh, lots of emotion, and I really wanted to run away from it. And but I know through, you know, the work that many of us do, to be with it, and rather than make a mad dash away from it, I sort of invited it in, and I just sat with it, you know. And I cried about many things, things going on in the world, but to sort of be in that moment and allow it to be, rather than to dash away from it, I think is a powerful action to take. But and that question you asked, what is life asking and calling me to be now? Yeah. I was going to ask you, what do you think the lesson of this time is attempting to teach us? Maybe it's to think about that question.
Well, it's a powerful reset. I mean, you just have to say, okay, you got my attention. If I wasn't paying attention now, I'm paying attention now. If I wasn't paying attention before, I'm paying attention now. So it's a powerful reset. You know, some of us thought at the beginning of the pandemic that we were going to ride through it, and then by the fall, we're going to be, and as we are finding out, actually know that is not so, and it may be even longer than we think. And then in the rise of that, we're slowed down enough to really face that America does not have integrity around the documents and its racial history. It has not come to terms with it. We hold these documents, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the various amendments, but we as a collective have not fully committed ourselves to have the words on the page truly live for every human being in this nation. And in part, it's because we still do not hold every human being as fully human. We still have vestiges of this thinking that is unchecked, unexamined. And what the protests, what the essence of Black Lives Matter is about, it's not about that other people don't matter. Come on now, we smarter than that. We smart people, we know better than that. It's about that in the context of what they're examining, which was originally about police brutality, which, by the way, has been an ongoing conversation. That's what in the 70s, what the Black Panther Party was talking about. And even before that, through the history of the terrorism against Black men and women through lynching, et cetera. I mean, this is a long history. So that the Black body is not valued the same. And we can see it systemically, because what do we do in this country? We count, we have data, we look at systems, and we can see that systemically. And so what this time is asking us to do is to face the truth. What I say in my presentations to people is, you didn't start it. You're white, you were born inside of a timeline. It didn't start with you, but you were handed a legacy. You inherited something. It didn't start with me. I was handed a legacy. What I get to do in this time is say, let me look at what I was handed, and how do I rise up and say, do I not do anything about it? Or do I use my time and energy to make a shift and hand the next generation something better? Because they will still need to continue to work on this, trust and believe. But do I just hand them the same old thing? Or do I say, hey, wait a second. This is what I am going to contribute to the reparation, the repair of the harm. That's what we're being asked to do, is to look at what is here for me to do. I don't have to hold the pain, the shame, the guilt, the ill doings of my ancestors. It doesn't belong to me in that way. I don't build any shrines to pain, none, zero, zilch. No victim, no villain, no hero. What am I called to do?
What am I? No victim, no hero, no villain. And what am I called to do? I think it's a very important distinction you make about, you know, this is where we sort of arrive on the timeline. What can we contribute? What action can we take? How can we make a difference? You know, it's a very interesting distinction. And to not, you know, take on all that shame, you know, what you just said, I think is very beautifully put. Very interesting distinction and discernment. Do you feel that the past few months has helped you in a way, or given you opportunities to shift in the type of work that you already have been doing? Because you've already been working in the area of racial healing, but what has it provided you?
You know, actually, it's just given me a little more time to focus on the project that I have founded, the Right Within Experience, for the reclamation of humanity, joy, and well-being of people of African ancestry through mindful practice. So I'm able to spend more time actually curating that. But I was already pivoted. I already understood that my time, that my ancestors actually, when they transitioned out of this time and space, they left me a clean slate. I always remember my grandfather saying to me, make something of yourself, get your education. On both sides of my family, we have, my grandparents came from St. Martin and Barbados. And then my paternal grandmother came from Charleston, South Carolina, during the Great Migration. And so when they left here, what they left me with was, stand on take the best of what I have given you and go. Run, girl, get it. That's what they were, because I checked, that was like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Interesting.
Girl. Go. take the good in my work, the balance that we need, the equilibrium that we need, the equanimity to move forward. So that's how I've been using the time, really. And then a lot of wonderful people, white people in my circle, are doing the same thing in their lane. And their lane is to grow confidence and courage by learning what they never knew, and stepping into leadership. I'm running a mindfulness teacher training program in the Department of Public Health to grow our cohort of mindfulness teachers. And one of the participants said to me in our group, you know, where's our leaders? You know, where's like our Martin Luther King or Malcolm X? And I said, that was for a different time.
Mm-hmm.
Our leaders are dispersed in a variety of arenas. And what about if the leadership doesn't come from us this time? What if it's a great white hope, actually? Because it's their stuff that needs to get cleaned up.
Exactly.
Not mine.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is not up to people of color to take care of what's going, you know, it's our white people, that's their job, you know, now that's the opportunity being presented. And you hear that a lot in a lot of discussions that you are probably, you know, a lot of people are watching a lot of things on the internet now, and you hear that a lot in the discussions that are coming up. Um, but I love what you're saying, and it's yeah, I'm loving this conversation. Folks, feel free to leave some comments in the feed, and thank you, Aaron, for tuning in, Lauren for tuning in, Claire, Nicole, Eric, and all sorts of folks are from a bunch of places tuning in. We thank you for joining us. Well, let's talk more about your work. I mean, you have two interesting things going on concurrently. I mean, you're bringing mindfulness into public health practices
Yes.
in San Francisco, which is a big thing
Yes.
in and of itself. And then you're also the founder of the Right Within experience. And maybe we can talk about that separate, but they both sound fascinating, but that one particularly sounds fascinating. So what has it been like for you coming in and offering what you're offering through Trauma-Informed Systems of Care Initiative in San Francisco? I mean, that's a big thing.
Yes. Well, really, it's a walk of faith. My husband has this phrase where he says, you make the road as you walk it. And that has been my experience in the Department of Public Health. I was trained as a trauma trainer in maternal child health when I was directing a maternal health program. And I would offer the trauma training to the staff of the Department of Public Health. And I noticed that people were really interested in these trauma principles and becoming more aware of how do they move from being trauma-inducing in how we work with each other and our communities to really being trauma-informed and to really becoming a healing organization. But people really didn't have the bandwidth to sustain this work. So I went to the leader of the trauma-informed systems and I said, you know, here's what I'm noticing. People like the concept, but they don't really have the skills to do this. I think what we need to introduce is mindfulness, emotional intelligence training, which help people build the inner calm, the resilience, the ability to hold and sustain difficulty over time, to be in the face of missteps and mistakes, and still stay the course without collapsing. And he said, Jenée, I think you're right. And so we sourced the Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute. I had already participated in one of their programs, and my staff did as well, because we had somebody from somebody who was in the teacher training come and do the work, so I was familiar with them. And so fast forward, I got trained, one other person was trained, and we began to offer it.
And that is the Search Inside Yourself Institute?
It's the Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute. It is a nonprofit in San Francisco, but it was started at Google. It was curated at Google, and then it, with much success, and ultimately spun off as its own nonprofit, and it's offered globally. Actually, there's teachers of this, of its mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and the latest neuroscience that supports both.
Wow.
And so it's offered for secular audience. So it was perfect for us in public health. And this as we began to offer this 2-day experience, people loved it and clamored like for more, more, more. Well, now there was just 2 people trained to train 9,000 people. So lo and behold, through relationship building, we connected with the Katali Foundation, and they have funded with through Search Inside Yourself, a teacher training program. So now we have 18 people being trained to do what I do. And so we'll be able to grow the work. So it's been an act of faith, and it has been a blessing all around. And my colleagues in the department are loving it. You know, mindfulness gives you your life. So they're getting their lives, not just in terms of the professional hats that they're wearing, but they're getting their lives personally, that they bring then to the work that they do.
Right. So what exactly? I'm right on. I'm right there with you. What sort of things are they being trained to do or trained to learn?
Yes. So Search Inside Yourself teaches the basic skills and practices of mindfulness. So how to meditate,
Beautiful.
how understanding the emotional intelligence domains, self-awareness, self-management, empathy, compassion, leadership. How do we integrate all those things into leadership? So the Search Inside Yourself curriculum takes motivation. We look at all of these things, and with each piece there are skills. It's a skill set that people are being introduced to and encouraged to grow and take back into the workplace. So what we're saying is, we start out in trauma, but what we're saying is that trauma should be nested in a mindful organization. Because what trauma asks us to do, it's a shift in our lens. Instead of looking at a situation or at people and saying, what's wrong with them? What's wrong with you? What trauma lens says is, what happened to you? And what happened to you, or what happened to them, that invites a context of compassion. It invites context setting, and it invites looking at strengths. And so when you train in mindfulness and emotional intelligence, it strengthens your ability to be more trauma informed and to live out the trauma principles of looking at behavior, practices, policies, procedures, taking that lens and saying, is what we're doing, is how we behave and what we commit to, is it fostering wellness and healing, or is it moving in the opposite direction? And it gives you the capacity, the ability to do that. So it's great. I love it. Can you tell?
Yes, I can feel it all the way over here, miles away. It sounds incredibly empowering, and incredibly powerful, and incredibly impactful. And I can see how the ripple effects of all that really filter out and affect other people's lives, you know, for the better. What are you most proud of in doing that?
Oh, I've got to say, in this moment, I am most proud of the fact that we have a cohort of 18 people who are studying to be mindfulness, emotional intelligence teachers in our organization. When I started this with the question, with the observation that we need to embrace mindfulness, I had no idea that we would be at a place of actually training others to move this out into the organization in a larger way. And that these people, my colleagues, are so stellar They are stellar people. They are stellar in what it is that they do for the community in public service. I mean, I just need somebody to do an article on us. So you can meet them because they are amazing people. They're amazing people. We have health workers to therapists and the mishmash in between, who have stepped up, who did the rigors of an application process, submitted a video, wrote the short essay, and they had to go through the lens of the search inside yourself, as well as my lens. And this is the group that rose to the top, and they are the cream. And they're going to be taking this work out and serving it. And in order to do it, it means that they have to be willing to embody it themselves so that you can transmit it. It's just not blah, 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 blah up here. Mindfulness is a life way. It's a lived experience that you take into you have it in your life, and then you share it with others through how you be, how you live. So we have, yes, the curriculum, but the curriculum only lives to the extent that it lives in the teacher. So I am so proud of this group and that we're able to do this, and that we had an amazing San Francisco philanthropist who stepped up, listened to what I was saying and said, yes, I'm a yes, let's do it. And that's how it can happen. I think people don't realize that it could be like that simple. It's just a matter of a connection and being a yes with resources.
Absolutely. It happens just like that, we have a question. First of all, thank you for sharing that. It sounds, just in hearing it, I can feel the effects it's having. How can we connect mindfulness with Feldenkrais? Was one question.
I don't know that practice, Feldenkrais. So I can't speak to that. I'm sorry.
And we can, if you have other questions, folks, just feel free to ask. And thank you for asking that question. And if somebody knows, please leave something in the feed too.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I mean, my sense is Feldenkrais is about the body. I don't know it, but anytime you are looking, you remember that mindfulness is about mind, body, and surrounding. So and it's about being present. So anytime you're doing anything with your body, the ability to be present with the process or with whatever the modality is asking you, that's how it is sharpening your ability to sustain your attention and stay with it. So although I don't know Feldenkrais, I just understanding mindfulness, that it helps you to stay present and be with the modality and and the gift of the modality.
Right. Ooh, I love that. Well, about the right within experience, this is an experiential mindfulness program that reclaims humanity, joy, and well-being for Black people through mindfulness practices. And you founded that not too long ago. I think it was just recently, right?
Just recently. It's brand new.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. What prompted you to do that? And I love the title, The Right Within Experience. That's wonderful.
So I'll start with the title. Right Within comes from a line in a song by Lauryn Hill, hip hop artist. And the line in the song says, "How you gonna win when you ain't right within?" And so when I heard, I would hear the song and I go, right within, that's right. This inner landscape, how you gonna win? How are you gonna be in your full flourishing if the inner landscape has not been tended to? And getting right and doing right are terms that are often used colloquially in the Black community. get right, you know, do right. So how are you going to win when you ain't right? When you're not in integrity, when you're not in the when you're not centered? It's not perfection, but when you're not connected and in fully embracing yourself, how are you going to win? How do you flourish? And it's particularly for Black people, because again, I think in this day and time, we each meaning the Black body, the non-Black body, has different, similar and often different tasks. And what is here for Black people to do right now is to heal, is to become free and emancipated from the internalized oppression. Because racism happens on 3 levels. It happens in the system, you know, discrimination. It happens personally, somebody following me in the store because they think I'm going to steal something because I'm Black, which has happened. And it happens internally when you internalize the stress, and you actually, even in a subtle way, begin to believe that somehow I am not worthy, or I am not as good as. So the Right Within experience was designed to reclaim the fullness of humanity, the joy of life, and the wellness, the health and well-being of our humanity, and flourish. We were put on this planet to flourish and to have joy. And one of the things that racism does, it erodes your humanity, it erodes your well-being, it erodes your joy. And so this is why it's called reclamation. It's from a Khan term called Sankofa, which means reclaim. Go back and get it. Go back what was left, go back and reclaim what is lost. My husband is a mental health practitioner, he's a therapist, and his business is called Sankofa Holistic Counseling Services. So the Sankofa word is important in our family. It's like reclamation, reclaim what is yours. And so I said, what is here to do for Black people is emotionally heal, get free inside so we can fully live and enjoy life. And be working in public health, I see all the data that points to, at every single data point, Black bodies have the worst health outcomes in every arena. My arena that I worked in for 17 years was maternal and infant mortality. Black babies dying at 2 to 5 times the rate of the general population in the first year of life, because babies are born too soon and too small, premature, a small, in your hand small, and not being able to survive. Why? We couldn't research, we couldn't pin it. But what the research began to point to is what's called social determinants of health. What's underneath that? Stress. What's underneath that? Racism. Mm-hmm. So everything in me said, we need to turn, what is here for me to do? Turn our attention to healing and thriving. So that's what I want to hand to the next generation. My grandfather said, go for it, go get it. That's what I want. That's what I say to my son. Go get it, get after it, make something of yourself. But you've got to be healthy and whole to do that.
Yeah. So are you planning certain online events, certain workshops?
Yes. Yeah. So let me just say, the Right Within experience is not a product for people like in general. It's very specifically for Black organizations that are serving the Black community, or organizations that serve Black people, such that the organization becomes more mindful and can then deliver a better product to the community. So I am in the process with some beautiful people of curating the curriculum and the program. Dr. Shelley Harrell, who's at Pepperdine University, a PhD candidate, Amber McZeal, Michael Wagner of Promotions West, who just moved to Australia. So this is how we meet on Zoom. Dr. Kwele Tutashinda, an educator and natural health practitioner in Oakland. They're my content advisors and program managers, Michael is. And we're putting together a program that we will pilot in 3 organizations in December. We pushed it out a bit because of COVID, because ideally we want to meet in person, but we may not be able to. It may have to be an offering that is online. So we're making those tweaks and adjustments to do that. So there'll be some pre-post work and then the actual work. And then I neglected, Trina Alexander is also one of our content advisors. She's the founder of Yoga Love in Oakland, and she has a lot of understanding of the embodiment practices, the yoga, the Egyptian and ancient Egyptian modalities and practices that we want to introduce people to. Because one of the things that we are going to do in the Right Within experience is revisit the lineage of mindfulness. The lineage of mindfulness did not start in Asia, actually. It's African. And so we are going to make that adjustment. We are ever grateful for, because the human breath belongs to everybody, for everything that our Asian brothers and sisters did, the Buddha and others, to codify this. But it started in Africa because it was those people practicing in Egypt, the Nile Valley, and moved out and populated East Asia, West Asia, and brought these embodiment practices that got, you know how evolution is, got evolved into fast forward where we are today. So we really want Black people to understand that this is part of your lineage that has not been taught, as many things have not been taught, but so that we write the lineage and we help people to build the confidence and strength and the practices to grow in the wisdom of the body and mind, so to be able to face the stress and the pain of racism and move past it. So that's what the Right Within experience is about.
Wow, what great opportunity, you know, lies ahead. I mean, you're saying that the foundation for something that is, it sounds like it's really going to blossom. And I love what you're saying, and thank you for sharing that, because I think many of us do not realize that some of those teachings did begin in Africa, and as you mentioned, spread out, right?
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, thank you.
As we all began in Africa. See, this is the whole thing. There is no human being on the face of the earth whose origin was not in Africa. No matter what we ended up looking like, however many thousands of years later. So this is part of what is the sickness behind racism, that there is no race other than the human race, and the construction of the races for capital gain and other things that it services is crazy. It's not even like real. Because we all began in the same place.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh, I can talk to you about this for hours. We have about maybe 15 minutes left, folks. So if you have any specific questions or anything, but yeah, really, thank you for sharing about the Right Within experience. It sounds really wonderful, and best of wishes with that. I mean, it sounds like it's really going to blossom. I'm curious about your own life, growing up. You mentioned you grew up back east, right?
Yes.
And so was there somebody that was particularly really influential in your life that helped shape you? And, it's like, oh, there's, we all, sometimes many of us have just that one person who, supports us and encourages us. So I was wondering, like, who was your one person? Was there like that person for you?
I think there were many people, because I grew up in a community, and my grandparents came to Staten Island, New York. My mother's parents came from Staten Island, New York, from a little village in St. Martin. My grandfather from the Dutch side, my grandmother from the French side, they both came, but they met and married in New York. How funny is that? They didn't know each other in this little island of St. Martin. They met and married in New York. So I had this incredible village of Caribbean people, and the culture, and because my parents worked, those elders really raised me. So I would say, like, really at the forefront, it was those elders, my great aunt and my godfather, who was Angelo Rodriguez, who was from Puerto Rico, and then my stepfather, Sidney Schmedes, from St. Thomas, and then of course my mother, Yvonne, who went to NYU. She's a class of 1954. So could you imagine that in 1950, when she graduated from high school, her dad, my grandfather, who was a porter, he basically shoveled coal into furnaces in buildings, because that's how buildings were heated at the time. Mm-hmm. He asked her, did she want to go to college? And she said yes. And she wanted to go to Howard, but her mom was sickly. And so she had to stay in New York. And so she went to NYU, but he paid for her to go there through his job as a porter and through playing cards at night. Oh, and he would win. And he would spread the money out on the bed and say, take whatever you need for tuition and books. And then she worked at Bloomingdale's part-time. So her life, like that, can do it. And then moving in these arenas of prestige, like, to me, that set the tone right there. And then I have, you can see the picture in back of me is of the dancer, Judith Jameson, one of the principal founding members of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. And I saw her at a performance at City Center, and the Alvin Ailey Company was performing. One of my teachers said to me, because I'm 6 feet tall and Judith is 6 feet, and my teacher said, I have to have you see this woman. You have to see her dance. And when I saw her dance, I just gasped, because in the dance, like I was like 15, right? And you're so awkward at 15 and you don't know who you are and such lack of confidence. In the dance was like, she just embodied everything that I wanted to be. And she's still alive, but I have her picture in 2 places in my home. So I would say it was the richness of my Caribbean culture, my parents, my grandparents, and the richness of Black culture all around me in New York really influenced me heavily. And then I did dance. I was in a dance company when I was 14, to the time I went to college. And one of my cousins was one of the founding members of the Dance Theater of Harlem, the great Arthur Mitchell. This was a Black ballet company. So I've had like the richness of Black life all around me. Mm-hmm. So the lie that we are somehow inferior just never made sense to me. Just never made sense to me.
Yeah. Well, and that, thank God. Great. I mean, because the work that you're putting forward now is really quite remarkable in so many ways. Wow. When did you know that the line of work that you are now doing or moved into was like, okay, that's it. That's my path?
I had such an eclectic career path. And because I am an innovator and I am creative, it is moment to moment. And it's like what just starts bubbling up. Remember, I was in trauma. I said, this is not enough. Let's do this. And then it just flowers. I'm going to call it flowering. But I already meditated. I have been trained as a Christian minister. I have a Christ-centered faith. So the whole notion of being still and quiet sitting was already part of my lifestyle. I teach the scriptures, the sacred text. So I'm going to say the fabric of it was in my soul already. The hooks were there that I could just go, oh yes, that's right. Hang that there. It's all of a piece. So I think that that's how I work. It's like jazz. It just, you have a line, and then everything gets played on top of it.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, jazz. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I can relate to a lot of what you're just saying. I creative, I write and I do other things too. But I do like that idea. It does feel like a flowering. It's like, okay, well, there's like all these pieces and somehow they seem sort of connected, but maybe they're not. And you're kind of going along and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now I get it. It's all like part of this,
Yes.
like a center core to it. Wow, that's great. That's really great. I love that.
Thank you.
Very visual. Um, well, we have a few Esalen kind of related questions for you.
Sure.
People come to Esalen and they look at the landscape, and the land is incredibly rich and inviting for people to, look and be and discover, really. Um, there's a lot of wonder and awe there. So what brings you a real sense of wonder and awe?
Oh, well, as you were talking about the land, one of the things that we've been doing during this COVID-19 is going to Redwood Regional Park and walking the trails and the paths and the trees and how they just go up, 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 up.
Yeah.
And, this whole tree hugging thing, well, I have done that.
Me too.
And just touching the tree and, asking, can I touch you, and getting that feeling, and then coming in and just taking in the feeling of that sense of magnificence and strength and perspective, that you've been here a way long time, longer than I, and you have survived so much. And I can take the next step. So I think nature definitely does that. The ocean, the Pacific Ocean, we drove to Carmel recently, and just the beauty of and watching the waves roll in and then come out. I mean, it was just it's so amazing. And so that I have related lately. I have a program, it's embedded in Right Within, but it's all about joy. It's about joy, and how joy, different from happiness, joy is something that is sustaining. It's a through line that is sustaining, where happiness is, and they both are things that you cultivate, and gratitude plays a part in both. But joy is that thing that is often set before us, that helps us to rock, that in the face of grief, you can still have joy. So
in the face of grief, you can still have joy.
yes.
Yes. Yeah. Love that. Love that.
I'm in awe of joy, definitely. And I'm studying it right now as like, oh my goodness.
It's interesting you bring that word up, because that came up for me a lot over the weekend. A lot of us are in transition, and I've been, and for me, I'm particularly usually optimistic and whatnot, and I've been questioning about joy and what is that really, and where does it dwell within us, and I'm fascinated with that subject suddenly, and I love that word, joy. I mean, how can you not love that word? So
Yes.
wow, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. And even if I know a lot of folks who might not be on a coastline, we have written a lot of blogs about going out in nature, especially during this time, and how that offers an invitation to just really sort of, be with yourself and be with what is. Many people, even if it's just a park down the street,
Yes.
There's something real powerful that can happen if we allow ourselves to be in those moments, right? Yeah.
Well, we're a part of the ecology. We're a part of it. Western thinking often has us pull ourselves out of it, but we are in that fabric. So that's what they call natural. It's a natural environment for us to be in that and to reconnect with something that's very, very much written in our bodies and our souls.
Exactly. Right. Right. Ah, I really could talk to you for hours. I feel like we're like in a virtual coffee house and we should just be like sipping
Thank
coffee.
you.
Mm. We have been talking to Jenée Johnson. Folks, leave some comments in the feed if you'd like. I think Nima said the chapter on joy in the book of Letting Go is amazing supplement to this. Ooh, that's a great book too, Letting Go. Hanging on is fun, so letting go is good, you know. So,
yes.
Well, one more question for you, Jenée, and we ask everybody this. What's the most interesting thing you've been learning about yourself lately?
The most interesting thing I have been learning about myself is that the things that I loved when I was really young are the things that I still love right now. And although some of them got lost along the way or unattended to, they are the things that really bring me life. Beauty, dance, music. You mentioned writing. I love to write creatively. Social engagement and connection. I'm really vibrant inside of that. There's these things, paying attention to health and well-being. There are just a set of things that are really started to be cultivated when I was very young, and they still are so important to me. And I thought, oh my goodness, you're still that. You have matured. You know, you're richer, you're deeper. But these things that give you life and that you're passionate about, it's the same stuff, girl. Reclaim it.
And I too can relate to that. I too can relate to that. Yeah, it's interesting to be invited to reclaim that. You know, it's there. Wow. But Jenée, thank you so much for being with us in this Esalen interview. Folks, learn more about the Right Within Experience, which Jenée founded. It's on Facebook at Right Within Experience.
And it's on my website too, actually better. www.jeneejohnson.com.
On the website and on Facebook, so check it out. Jenée, you're doing really wonderful work in the world. It's phenomenal. So thank you. I really appreciate your time, and yeah, and like I said, I could talk to you for hours. It's great. It's seamless conversation. So thank you for being with us here, and folks, stay connected to us. Go to esalen.org/learn. Plenty of blogs and information there about Esalen. Stay up to date on everything. Stay in touch with us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We care about you. Our hearts and thoughts go out to you during this unique time in history. We are all in this together, learning together at a remarkable time. So, Jenée, thanks so much. I hope the rest of the week are wonderful and the rest of the year as well. So thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. And I'm wishing everyone well. Shelter in peace.
Shelter in peace. And on that note, we will see you soon, folks. Stay in touch with us on Facebook for the next Facebook Live, which I believe is on Thursday. So we'll talk to you soon. And thanks for tuning in. I'm Greg Archer. Take care for now.